Well, hello, and welcome to the practice of being human. I'm your host, Marta, and as always, I am thrilled that you're here. Before we dive in today, I just want to thank you, truly, to those of you who have been sharing this podcast with your people. Might be your coworkers, your friends, your family members, your kids, parents, whoever it may be. It means so much to me, and I know what it is to listen to something really good and to internalize it and then want to share it with others. But sometimes I miss that opportunity and it's later that I'm reminded of it. So I just wanted to ask that if something in this podcast moves you and you think of someone who might benefit from hearing it, to in the moment send something to them, send them this link and expose them to these conversations and this way of moving and being in the world. Because I think if something lands for you, likely it's going to land for someone else. And as I often say, my goal is to impact at least 1 million humans with this work and more, ideally. And your shares help that happen. So thank you. Today, I want to explore something a little different, something that has been percolating in my mind lately, because I have a lot of things that percolate and I tend to share those on the podcast. And this is no different. And this is about your algorithm. It's not your Instagram algorithm, maybe that's what you're thinking, or your TikTok or your YouTube or even Spotify per se. It's more the algorithm of you. And what I mean by this is the ecosystem that you have built around what you're bringing in, your senses, your attention, your thoughts, and your spirit, and how you are nourishing those things, or maybe depleting them. But the repetition of what you take in and day out shapes your perspective and your life. And you want to start paying attention and being more intentional, because I think most of us do this without as much intentionality and without even really any awareness or noticing, or just going through the motions. So if you think about even just this question, do you ever wonder who you are and what you think with your current algorithm? The current you algorithm, what is that? Who are you? And then who would you be? What would you think if you switched it up and maybe weren't reacting and thinking the same things over and over based on the same inputs, but actually exploring something new and different and bringing in some new things to have you maybe percolate on something different and see what that voice, those voices, those shows, those social scrolls, maybe some music or some different people. I always love to say to my young adults, like, make sure you're opening your door to someone new on a regular basis, someone who might not be part of your group and who might be someone you otherwise might not give the time of day, but to start to realize like everyone has something to bring. Everyone has something to offer. And we all have stories. We all have belief systems we operate from. We all are bringing to this world our own unique imprint and footprint. And I think the more we cross paths with unique humans and those different than maybe what we are accustomed to, I think the more we evolve and grow and become more fully and wholly who we are meant to be. Every single moment, I want you to think about this. Based on what you are bringing in, you are reacting to it. So whatever's coming in through your eyes, your ears, your hearts, your minds, you're listening to something. Maybe it's a podcast like this episode right now, right? And you're having thoughts. Maybe you're in your car and you're having thoughts. Maybe it's about the person in front of you, how they're driving. You're having thoughts about that. Maybe you're scrolling your feed and having thoughts. Maybe you're petting your dog or reading a text, watching the news, whatever it may be. There are more thoughts based on those things, right? All of these things continue to generate thoughts on our parts, right? And these thoughts become and continue to become our narratives, our stories, our ways of seeing. But here's the thing. If we never change and up level what we consume, what we're bringing in to our five senses, and what we're letting shape us, we never really tap into what is possible. and we stay stuck. We stay stuck in the same mental loops, the same beliefs, the same emotional reactions, the same worldview. And sometimes, without even realizing it, we start to confuse influence with truth. This is why I care so deeply about you considering changing your algorithm where it makes sense, okay? Not completely, and maybe not much at all, but just a little bit. Because I think the more you bring in something new and different, the more you're going to see a little differently. And then you move in the world a little differently. It's magical. This work is rooted in helping you wake up, right? To be conscious to your life, to what it is to be a human being, the mere gift of what it is to be human, and the messiness of it, the marvelousness of it. And the more we wake up, the more we are living in that gift, in the miracle, while also learning how to build the skills and the tools and the wherewithal to be human, because it's a lot. Have you noticed? As you all know, we have this online platform. It's the practice. And here is where I work with brilliant, beautiful humans who come to me and they are often feeling stuck or frustrated or anxious or overwhelmed and or all the things, right? And what we do is we take a moment, we take a breath, we pause, the sacred pause, I like to say, and we take stock of their current algorithm. How's it working for them, right? And clearly, if they're feeling all the feelings that I just described, it's probably not working so well. And it might just make some good sense to shift it up a little bit, open up space for something different, cultivate some consciousness and some presence, and be in the now, building that self-awareness. Because when we change the external algorithm by changing our internal algorithm, we shift out of the trance that I think all of us can be in, out of reaction, out of autopilot. And what we do is we come more into flow and into what is real and true without some of the old tapes playing over and over and over, and some of our autopilot just taking over and are not being even remotely aware of what it is we're saying, we're doing, or doing it in a thoughtful, intentional, human way. And to me, our opportunity here is to wake up, to shift out of this autopilot, create consciousness, create awareness, notice what the algorithm is right now from where we're operating and what we can maybe do to introduce something new and different. And this will move the needle for some transformation, soul kind of transformation, my friends. And it's not always flashy, but it is real. It is true. It is deep. And when we make those kinds of changes, everything else starts to shift as well. To truly transform, we have to ask deeper questions. We have to have different conversations. We have to do different things, right? Who are we when we're doing the things we're doing? Because that's always what I say to my people. Like, we're all doing a lot of things, but who are we being while we're doing the things we're doing, right? The more we focus on the being piece and understand that the doing is just going to play out, it's going to naturally take root, then the more I think we are influencing how we're showing up in the world in a very thoughtful, conscious way. What do I value? What are my top values, right? I love the, truth and power and service and love. Those being some really good values that I see as carrying me through the world. And as I move in the world, those are at my core. Those are informing my way of showing up. And I mention power because I think as a woman and as someone in the role and position that I am, there is real power in it. And I want to be very thoughtful and intentional about that power and how it's utilized, but also how it's expressed, right? But I love power when it is utilized and it is informed by a value system that I think helps serve the greater whole. Think about what you believe. What do you want to believe? Not just what you believe right now, but like start to question it. Ask the question, what would you want to believe if you could? If every belief you have is optional, what else might be true for you? What else do you want to be true? And how might you go about believing that truth? What would that do in terms of changing how you show up? What would you say or do differently? Who would you hang out with? What would you be listening to? I think all of these questions matter. It's like, what are you reading? What are you bringing in through your eyes? What are you thinking? What are you writing? Think about your legacy, regardless of your age. What legacy do you want to leave? How do you want people to remember you? How do you want people to experience you? How do you want people to feel around you? Right? Who are you as you show up in a room? As you walk in a room, what is guiding you? Right? And back to our values, that is always very helpful. If you're thinking about I am love, and one of my top values is love, then I'm going to show up in a room as love. What does that look like? Right? I'm more expansive. I'm more open. I'm more accepting. I'm more energized and encouraged to see people and to really listen and show up and see them, right? Think about what's the legacy you want to live. And this all ties back to this algorithm, right? What are you bringing in that's continuing to help shape and form you? And do you want to maybe consider bringing in some different things into your algorithm? And what are those things that are continuing to nourish and expand you and grow you and, light you up? And what are the things that might not be doing that for you? And how could you shift and change? As some of you know, I lost I didn't even lose. My mom passed 18 months ago. And that opened the door, as I have shared on many episodes, that really opened the door for a deeper dive for me and something that I didn't know that I was capable of and or in need of, but it certainly paved the path for me forward very differently than I had been living and moving in the world. And so these questions that I'm sharing with you are questions that I am asking myself on a regular basis. I feel like as life continues to shift and evolve, I continue to do the same. And, here I am, my youngest child, heading to college in the fall. It's wild to me that here we are. My business is growing and expanding. My marriage is evolving. We are 26 years in, and as I like to say, we've been married many times, and we have continued to stretch and grow. And I feel like even recently we've made some really big changes and shifts. And sometimes I wish we could have done those early on, but we didn't know what we didn't know. And we showed up as we did. And you take full ownership, right, of these things. But this continued walk and growth and learning and evolving, seeing my kids flourishing and figuring themselves out and answering these questions that I've just shared with you. I also love how my friendships are shifting and changing and growing, and the people that I am spending my time with. All of this is waking me up to something different, something new, and it is growing me in the ways that I want to grow. This is my algorithm. And I just ask you to consider, what is your algorithm, right? What is it that you are operating from? What are the voices you're listening to? What are the stories that you're living out of habit? What new ways of seeing are maybe asking to come in? I was talking to a girlfriend who had explored going to one of these silent retreats. And I was like, I'm not so sure I'm down with that, but I've heard about them. I've heard about silent retreats. I've heard about these retreats where you go and you're in the dark for a period of days. And I'm thinking, not one lick a light do you see, apparently. You are just in the dark. And I can imagine that you go to the depths of your soul. You are left with you, right? And what that must be like. And disconnecting from the algorithm that they have been connected to for, day in and day out. What would that be? For us to create some space, not necessarily going on a silent retreat or going to one of these darkness retreats or whatever they're called, but to start disconnecting from some of the maybe external noise and to find out what your inner voice actually sounds like. Now, again, I haven't done some of these more extreme things, but I'm heading in that direction. In fact, I'm going to Hawaii in September for a retreat for women, CEO women who are asking these deeper questions and desiring to have these conversations and to, pave a conscious path forward, because this is how I want to spend my time. This is with whom I want to spend my time. And it's the air I want to be breathing. It lights me up. It helps me, I think, taste what is possible. And it impacts my programming, right? It impacts my programming. It impacts how I'm showing up, how I see, how I think, how I feel, all of it. And then, of course, the outcomes that I'm creating, the experience I'm having of my life. All of these things are impacted by the algorithm and what I'm bringing in, what I'm exposing myself to. So maybe imagine yourself going on your own Hawaii retreat, right? With people or a person that elevates your game, that gets you seeing and thinking and breathing a little differently. Imagine maybe putting your phone down, turning off the shows, walking away from the social scroll. What might emerge? What might you discover that's been buried under the algorithm of your life? This, my friend, is why I do the practice, because I want to create a space for people to access other ways of being and thinking, new ways to sit in a room with other smart, curious, marvelous, messy, incredible humans and toss a thought out on the table, so to speak, and watch what happens. Watch how we assimilate it or resist it. Maybe we cry about it or laugh through it, whatever it may be. But it's all informing and elevating each and every one of us because we're willing to be open to something new and different. What else is possible? That's where transformation happens. And that's why my clients keep coming back. Not because they want a quick fix, and it's not about a fix. It's because they're here to continue to elevate their level. 2.0, 3.0. They're curious. They want to maybe poke the bear a little bit, to shake up their own systems, to see what is possible. This stuckness, this overwhelm, this stress, this like too muchness, and this lack of purpose and direction and meaning, and maybe feeling alone and all alone in the world, all of that is optional. Come join us in the practice, because this is where we're going to challenge those stories. We're going to see you for where you are, and we're going to rework your algorithm. And friends, that changes everything. When we change our algorithm, we change our life. So let's start to access new thoughts, find our voice, become capable of handling what we used to maybe avoid. Stop living in the tiny circle that we've always been known and have kind of circled in, and start building a wider, richer, more colorful circle and world. Think about, what would that look like? I know that it might feel a little scary, unknown, uncertain, especially when you begin to change and others don't. But I'll say this, when you find a community like you can in the practice, you don't stay stuck in someone else's algorithm just to make them comfortable. You start to shift. You see other people shifting theirs, and that gives you incentive. It shows you what else is possible. That is living the examined life, my loves. And to me, that is the life I want to be living. So this week, your invitation, ask yourself, what do I think and believe now based on my inputs? And what would I think if I shifted up some of my influences and influencers? What would that look like? And even if you don't have the answer yet, it's all fine and good. Trust that the question alone has power. You're not behind. You're not late. You're here. You're human. And that, in and of itself, is a beautiful place to be. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If this resonated, share it. And I have an offering. If you've shared 20 links, yes, 20, you get a free 20-minute call with me. Just reach out via my website. I will trust that you are honest and true to your word, because I want to connect with the people who are doing this work and sharing this work. And that is my gift to you. You share 20 links with people with this podcast, I will share 20 minutes with you free of charge. So head to martabrummel.com, grab the podcast link, and pass it along to your people. The ones that you know are all about the learning and the loving and the leading in the world. Let's help more humans live, love, and lead on their own terms and in thoughtful, intentional ways. Let's change the algorithm. Let's change the world. Until next time, be well. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for doing the beautiful, courageous work of being human. If you're longing for a space to go deeper, I'd love to invite you into the practice, my online community where we gather to grow, to heal, and to remember who we are, and that we're not alone. It's a space to explore this work in real time with real people in all our messy, miraculous humanness. You can learn more at martabrummel.com. I'd love to welcome you there. Until next time, blessings and big love.